Have you ever felt the weight of silence speaking louder than words in a relationship? The power of your silence. Following his rejection. The unveiling mysteries of man psychology. Now is the time to discuss something substantive. I thought you'd been there. You did all in your power to express your feelings for him. For him, you put your own wants on wait, went above and beyond, gave up some things you cared about, and gave your all in every interaction. You were always there for him, ready to listen, offer support, and contribute whenever he needed you. In times of trouble, he could always count on you to be there for him, providing him with solace and support. However, what was his response? Everything was taken for granted by him. He paid no attention to your value and treated you like a number. He ignored your attempts with complete indifference since he took your affection for granted. He made you feel little, unimportant, and unheard. And then he casually turned you down. Oh, I bet it hurt. The sour, biting aftertaste of being turned down. And you end yourself questioning the significance of your actions. You start to wonder if you were inadequate. As the anguish builds, it casts doubt on all acts of kindness, sacrifices, and caring. In an effort to persuade him, you used reasoning, tears, and words to try to make him see what he was losing. But it was ineffective. Absolutely nothing. He turned and disappeared. Let me tell you something, Queens. The most effective tactic in your arsenal is the one you haven't yet attempted. Absolute quiet. Complete stillness. Messages, phone calls, and status updates will end here. Let yourself be totally invisible to him now. Just think about it. He checks his phone one day, hoping to see a message or hear from you. Nothing happened instead. You have disappeared. Your inaction will be heard more clearly than any words you might have chosen. The impact on him will be profound, beyond his wildest imagination. Because this is the reality. Most men don't appreciate their possessions until they're gone. Oh, and he'll start to feel the lack of energy after you cut off your energy supply. And now he may pretend he's unconcerned. Maybe he'll act like everything is fine, and that you're not there. But believe me when I say this, it's all an act. Instinctively, men seek a woman's undivided attention and care. Additionally, they are aware of its absence, and that void will deepen the longer you remain quiet. He will suddenly understand that you weren't only a choice, you had a choice. He puts on a brave front, but deep down, he's beginning to feel the weight of losing someone priceless. For stability, generosity, and love, you were the one to come. Plus, you're the only one who can satisfy the hole you've created for him. Join me in affirming this, Queens. I am powerful in my quiet. Pronounce it. The power of their words is palpable, because he isn't the only one who feels your absence when you're silent. You are about to rediscover your power, your honor, and your value. If you stick around, I'll show you how this quiet will change everything. How it makes him think about what he lost and makes him question whether he will ever meet someone like you. Are you prepared to witness his downfall then? To watch him suffocate in the void you left behind? Start now and see how your quiet is the most ear-piercing alarm clock he will ever hear. One that is making him face the reality of his losses. Are you prepared to explore his realm of regret and self-discovery in great detail? Come on, we can leave now. The first step. It seemed insignificant at first. This is where it all starts then. You may be under the impression that he will immediately notice your decision to remain silent. Perhaps you're holding out the hope that he'll experience some sort of sadness, an abrupt emptiness, or an epiphany. The truth, though, is likely to be quite different from the outset. He doesn't feel the immediate impact of this quiet. As a matter of fact, it's hardly noticeable when it hits. He might even experience relief if he was a new acquaintance, or someone you had been seeing for a little period. He keeps convincing himself that breaking up is simple, and that he shouldn't put any effort into this relationship anymore. He could fool himself into thinking he's finally at liberty, unfettered to do as he pleases. Even in these early stages, he can come to believe that it was the correct choice to let go of you. He seems to be ignoring the power that your silence possesses. Alternatively, he might have been a long-term partner of yours, someone who began to withdraw emotionally because he was so certain that you would be there for him no matter what. He may fail to notice how much you're missing. He reassures himself that this peaceful period won't last forever and that you'll return alone eventually. He believes he is in charge. He's ahead of the game. The significance of your silence is being scarcely touched upon by him. Aching, lack, and emptiness are what you're experiencing on the opposite side of this quiet. Opting for quietness isn't effortless. It's more than just not trying to get in touch. It's hard not to call, check in, and bring up the good times you two shared. You can't help but feel the old pull to make contact, to speak up in the hopes that your voice will be heard. And in the early stages, you may even ponder if it's worth it to be silent. But keep this in mind. He still feels your absence, even though he isn't acting on it. Imagine a calm storm building its might. Initially, he remains oblivious, but the winds begin to change, ever so slightly. He and you are both experiencing tranquility before the tempest. It may seem like the quiet is accomplishing nothing if he were someone fresh. He tells himself that you're just one of many people out there while he's out with friends, or even on a date. However, he fails to understand that your distinct presence cannot be replaced by anyone else. His delusion that he is unaffected is his own delusion. However, he can't help but feel a twinge of discontent and a lack of completion whenever he meets someone new. Even if he doesn't realize it, this is the first step toward remorse. The more seasoned one may be at home, checking his phone, noting that you haven't responded to his messages, but not yet sensing any effect. Because he is accustomed to your presence, he thinks it will remain even if he doesn't say anything. He believes there is an infinite amount of time for him to make amends, and he knows you will return, as you always have. This hush is hardly audible to him. Something minor but important is beginning to germinate while he sits there, unconcerned. Your absence is like a pebble in his shoe, constant annoyance that he can never seem to shake. He can brush it off for the time being, but as the stillness deepens, that pebble will become a heavy stone, slowing him down with each stride. I can see he's not feeling it just yet, but it's going to become worse. This is a challenging stage for you. You're here, resisting the want to connect. You're struggling under the weight of your own quiet, wondering if he's thinking about you at all while he goes about his day. That hurts. Pain, though, is really a disguised kind of strength. When you hold back from speaking up, you're laying the groundwork for strength and resilience. By allowing him some room, even if it's just a little, he can sense your absence. It's as if you were to sow a seed in parched ground. On the surface, nothing is happening. However, deep down, the soil is starting to take hold. Even though he doesn't perceive it just yet, the effect of your quiet is real. He has no idea he is embarking on a journey, but this is the first step. This is the most effective action you can do, but it also happens to be the most painful. The more you keep your distance, the more opportunities he must learn what it's like to live alone. And that emptiness will eventually suffocate him. He will eventually be unable to escape the hush, no matter how much he tries. If you find yourself reaching out when things get tough, just remember your affirmation. I am powerful in my quiet. Keep these words close to you like a shield, protecting you from any uncertainty or dread. Because when you beg, cry, or plead, you are effectively giving him control of your feelings. But remaining silent is reclaiming your power. It's standing firm and unyielding while he faces the music for his decisions. He will see your value regardless of what you say. Over time, your absence will accomplish that task for you. Queens, keep in mind that even though he doesn't feel anything right now, this is only the start. Reclaiming your strength is as simple as taking one step at a time in quiet. Your decision to remain silent sends a message that he should not take you for granted. The emptiness will reverberate for a longer period than any words you utter. Next, be still and know that change is happening. The stillness grows heavier with each passing day, and he starts to realize that something is different. The change is small and barely perceptible at first. He continues with his usual activities, such as spending time with friends and trying to divert his attention. A subtle but noticeable change, though, starts to pull at him. Have you ever stayed silent when you saw him treat you like that? If you've experienced it, press 1. If you've never experienced it, press 0. And if you think it's normal, go ahead and hit the like button on this video. It's as if you step into a room that was once brimming with warmth, only to discover that it's now somewhat chillier. Something is missing, and he doesn't quite get it. At first, he might not notice the shift if he is a new person in your life, or someone who has only just begun to get to know you. He is accustomed to feeling unmoved, as if you were merely a passing episode, someone he could swiftly substitute. However, as all the sounds die down, he can't help but feel a subtle lack of you. Perhaps it's how you'd say, "Good morning," or how you'd keep in mind stuff that he didn't even notice. He had come to rely on these things, and now they are simply gone. The reality hits closer to home for the one who was there for the longest. Imagine his naivete. He believed he had a firm grasp on you. He had become accustomed to your presence, regardless of his deservingness. However, the void you formerly occupied now seems peculiarly empty. Half expecting to receive a message from you, he checks his phone and finds nothing. This need to find you is almost primal, yet he is beginning to understand the impact of your absence with each peaceful moment. It may be difficult to experience this phase of the journey on your side. You can be asking whether he's paying attention, or if silence is having any effect. It's easy to feel like he's ignoring you and moving on without giving it a second thought, especially when you're the one resisting the need to reach out. This, however, is the rub. Your absence won't have a blatantly noticeable impact. Subtle and unobtrusive, it creeps into his life like an unshakable presence. Think of your presence as a constant beat that he has become accustomed to, like a heartbeat that never really leaves his side. There is no crash and no major alteration when it comes to a stop. A more accurate description would be a subtle disturbance, an unusual quietness that becomes increasingly audible with time. He can't help but notice every detail that is used to make you stand out. Fragments that he could hardly have ignored before now seem insurmountable. Plus, no matter how hard he tries, he just can't ignore this transformation. To fill the space, he can try to attract other people or objects of distraction. If he wants to avoid thinking about what's missing, he can search through his contacts for someone else to text. To comfort himself, he can pretend everything is okay and that he's unconcerned. However, your lack of speech lingers, as if it were an unseen burden weighing him down. There's no denying that, even though it's not loud or visible. If he were a new acquaintance, he would quietly come to this realization as he begins to realize that you are not easily replaceable. Perhaps he believed he might find another person who would be equally attentive and kind, but nobody he encounters can compare it to no one can offer the same kind of warmth or presence. It's as if you're attempting to exchange a beloved tune for an unfamiliar one. Though musically similar, The two tracks don't have the same vibe. Something he let go of wasn't just anyone he's beginning to realize in the recesses of his thoughts. Even more so for the one who had been emotionally disconnected, the stillness had taken root. He used to believe that you would be there for him no matter what, that he could count on you no matter what. However, he is now beginning to consider the possibility that he was mistaken. As time goes by and you don't communicate with him, he starts to doubt his assumptions and wonders if he has exaggerated his influence over you. He begins to feel his pride eroded by this humiliating knowledge. Here is where you will feel the full impact of the subtle understanding of transformation. Staying silent is a powerful statement, and it's not only about him sensing your absence, it's about letting go and letting him experience life without you, and the strength that comes with that. Your refusal to seek out sends a message that you aren't patient and that you value yourself more than the person who rejected you. Silence doesn't work, Magic Queens. It's the same as sowing a seed. The blossoming process takes time. But the world around him is changing because of your absence. His confidence and certainty are being eroded and replaced with questions and uncertainty as time goes on. Oh, and you. You are more valuable than anyone else's convenience, and that is why there is quiet. There is more to you than meets the eye. You deserve our undivided attention, gratitude, and admiration. So, remember your affirmation anytime you feel the weight of this stillness or question if he is even paying attention. I am powerful in my quiet. Just because. Your value isn't contingent on his attention, and you're regaining the energy you once gave so freely with each moment of silence. It is powerful, but not easy. Plus, he's starting to feel it more and more with each passing day. Third step. Something peculiar about checking in. He begins to exhibit unexpected behavior as the days go by without any communication from you, looking out for you, even when he doesn't initiate contact. His finger hesitates over your name as he nervously scrolls through his phone. Maybe he opens your conversation but then closes it again before he types a word. On the other hand, he might sneak a peek at your social media accounts to gauge your level of activity. He develops a private routine, one he doesn't fully comprehend, quietly wanting to see how you're doing. At first, he rationalizes it by saying it's only habit. The reality, though, is that he's trying to fill the void you've left behind by constantly checking in with you. Despite his reluctance to acknowledge his feelings of loss, he is desperately seeking any indication that you are still in his life. Perhaps all he's waiting for is for a story or post to appear, something to let him know that you're still thinking about him and how you're doing. Yet, remaining silent contributes nothing. No news, no hints, no solace. His interest is piqued by the empty area. He may have assumed it would be simple to go on and not look back if he were a fresh person in your life. This isn't going to be as easy as he thought, though. He can't help but wonder who else is occupying your time and whether they've managed to capture your interest during this awkward pause. He wants to know if you're online so he can finally put his questions to rest. This practice of checking in is subtle, but it's a clue that something he believed he could disregard is being stirred up by your absence. This practice of checking in is much more robust for someone who has been a part of your life for a longer period of time. He is accustomed to receiving constant updates and texts about you, so he knows exactly what's happening. He feels like an outsider peering in on your life now that you no longer have that bond with him. In his own way, he is wondering whether you have changed, if you are still around, and if you are still someone he can rely on. If he keeps looking and doesn't discover anything, it's like striking an impenetrable wall of silence. Additionally, it disturbs him. At the same time, You need to fight the desire to reach out at this point, since you know that his awareness of his own shortcomings is growing with each moment of silence. Staying grounded is your choice, even though you might be tempted to check his updates and see what he's doing. You're letting go and embracing the power of this silent distance, even while he checks in. It's not you who is trying to find solutions. Yes, he is. Each time he looks for you and doesn't find anything, it's a reminder that you're coping, even if it's only for a day. He may attempt to convince himself that his habit of checking is meaningless, characterized by curiosity and habit rather than significance. But he has an inkling that there's more going on. It's as if he's ignoring an itch that needs scratching. He can't help but feel a twinge of regret and uncertainty every time he passes your name or looks at your profile. In this stillness, he seeks solace by recognizing something. But there's nothing but nothingness, a mirror of the chasm he made when he let you go. On this stage, Queens, you can feel the strength. It's not only you who is confused. You aren't looking for a sign, checking in on him, or waiting for him to provide updates. You're prioritizing contentment above seeking approval. Reclaiming the energy you previously invested in him, you stand solid in your silence, allowing him to feel the weight of his own deeds. As a result, keep this in mind the next time the weight of his quiet makes you wonder if he cares. I am powerful in my quiet. He no longer treats you like an open book. Every time he checks in, wonders, or questions, it's a sign that something is wrong. You have decided to stop waiting for him to appreciate you. On the contrary, you're continuing with your plans while he is left to fill in the blanks. Although it's not a big deal, this subtle habit of checking in is his first taste of what he's lost. Every moment of stillness is slowly but surely becoming an ingrained memory of how easily he overlooked so much. You should cherish this quiet, since it gives you an opportunity to reflect on your inner strength, while also exposing him to unexpected emptiness. Section 4. A vexing sense of unease. He begins to experience a new emotion as time goes on. Feeling uncomfortable. The problem isn't huge or particularly pressing, but it's always there, poking him like a pebble in his shoe. An eerie, persistent unease lingers in the recesses of his consciousness, an annoyance he can never quite shake. His self-assurance is beginning to fly as he experiences this unease, which is his first true taste of life apart from you. Even if he insists, he's well and continues living his life as usual, something has changed. Before, the quiet was soothing. Now, it's unnerving and even irritating. Why that annoys him is something he doesn't quite grasp. Ultimately, he believed he could get by without you. He assumed it would be simple to fill this spot. But now, it seems like every second that goes by without a word from you serves as a reminder that things aren't going according to plan. Imagine being in a peaceful environment and suddenly hearing an incessant ticking sound that you can't cease. He could have assumed he could disregard her without hesitation if he were a newcomer. He thought he could get back to his life without a hitch. Now, though, he is becoming aware of the fact that this peculiar, subtle unease follows him around like a shadow. He is no longer able to disregard it. It's a sign that he might have underestimated the impression you'd give. Although he tries to push the fleeting feeling of remorse away, it remains and gradually intensifies with the passage of time. Someone who has been at your side for a longer period of time will feel the unease even more acutely. He assumed that keeping his distance would have no effect and that you would be available for him to reconnect with whenever he wanted. However, he is now experiencing a new form of weight, the gradual but steady understanding that perhaps he does not possess the control he believed he possessed. Without your constant communication, his self-assurance gradually declines, and an underlying unease that he struggles to articulate grows stronger with each passing day. This awkwardness, when you're on the other side, can feel like a strength. You aren't the one frantically trying to keep the wall he constructed from crumbling. It's starting to show signs of wear and tear. That he can't do what he wants with you is the first crucial realization he's having, and the discomfort he's experiencing is a sign of that. This stillness is a triumph, an affirmation of your value and power for you. You're not the type to sit around and hope for crumbs of his attention. You're making your presence known. Keep in mind, my silence is my power, the next time you feel the want to break the silence to make him feel better. Every time you stay silent, you're confirming the worth he disregarded. So if you haven't already, leave a remark pledging to regain your strength. You are more than an option, and this journey is about acknowledging that fact and proving it to yourself and him. A queen prioritizes her value over her comfort, and you are no exception. Finding you in the little things is the fifth step. The stillness has become an inescapable part of his life by this point. Everyday occurrences, even the smallest details, serve as reminders of you to him. Without saying it directly, he's noticing that you're everywhere. He thinks about how you could always guess his order at his go-to coffee shop just by looking at him. Sometimes, he'll hear a song, and it will transport him to a shared experience, causing him to feel an irresistible twinge. Uninvited and unshakable, these tiny, unexpected moments keep drawing you back to him. If he was a stranger, he certainly didn't anticipate that you would make such an impression on him. He assumed you wouldn't linger and that he could go on without you. However, he is finally coming to terms with the fact that you have added something irreplaceable to his life. No one else can fill these holes quite where you did, and these little reminders begin to feel like echoes of what he let go of. These moments hurt considerably more for someone who was there for you for a longer period. They are small reminders of how easily you provided him with solace, understanding, and warmth, and how he has lost those things. Those moments aren't as easily replaceable as he had imagined, and he is starting to feel their weight. A sense of regret over the connection he too readily disregarded accompanies every memory of you that he encounters. You find this part of his trip very moving. You have stopped trying to connect with him or showering him with the random acts of kindness that he used to appreciate. You're letting him experience the reality of being alone, and he'll be left searching for fragments of you wherever you're not. Your influence was profound, and every memento is evidence that you were one of a kind and indispensable. My strength is in my silence, so keep that in mind, queens. He can't escape the truth of what he's lost, and every second he spends searching for you brings him closer to it. Permit him to seek. Each passing second is revealing to him what he is lacking. Section 6. The difficulty in establishing new relationships. He is now experiencing the impact of your absence in ways he did not anticipate. And in his anguish, he looks elsewhere, trying to discover someone who can complete you. He may try to divert his attention by going out and meeting new people, or perhaps starting a relationship. However, the truth? These new relationships fall short in every way. Because no one else understands him the way you did, he is becoming increasingly agitated because he knows he cannot just recreate the effortless comfort he experienced with you. If he were a new person in your life, he probably thought he could get over you fast, since he was sure there was someone else who was perfect for you. But now he sees how complicated it is. He finds inexplicable shortcomings in every new person he meets. Everything in their reactions to his stories, from the way they laugh to the stories themselves, feels authentic and real. He's learning the hard way that no amount of effort can ever replace the unique bond he shared with you. As time goes on, he will realize that what he lost was not just a companion, but also an important part of his life. Your silence is not merely an empty space. It is a powerful reminder that your presence once brought meaning, warmth, and comfort that he can never find in anyone else. And you, the queen of your own life, must understand that strength does not lie in trying to hold on to someone, but in letting go of what no longer deserves you. Silence is a powerful tool to affirm your worth, to remind yourself that you are not a backup option, but a priority. Sometimes, in relationships, we get caught up in the cycle of trying to prove ourselves, seeking validation, or clinging to what no longer belongs to us. However, silence is not weakness or avoidance. It is a way to assert your value. It allows you to create space for the other person to reflect on what they have lost while helping you rebuild your confidence and inner strength. Remember, your worth does not depend on the attention of others, but on how you treat yourself. Learning to let go is not a failure, but a step toward growth and peace. When you learn to value yourself, you will no longer seek acceptance from anyone because you will understand that you deserve far better.